What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I have a highly requested topic. This is the Battlefield 6 settings guide. Going to be going step by step through every setting in this game, and there are a lot of them, and the menus are not very good, so please bear with me. I might get lost going through the menus in this video, but hopefully it will help a lot of you guys. We'll be going over visibility, graphics, and some quality of life stuff. So if you want to follow Battlefield 6, hit the sub button, be sure to hit the like button as well, and let me know what weapon guide do you want to see first, because I was thinking the M4A1, but perhaps the MP5 or even the M417, so let me know in the comment section. I would greatly appreciate that. Or if you have something else to suggest. Now, moving into the options here, I'm just going to be going straight down the left side, going through each and every one of these menus. Starting with accessibility, I will timestamp these in the video description if you want to see something specifically. If you're struggling with visibility, definitely watch the graphics section in its entirety. Now, accessibility. This is where you find your menu narration, subtitles, subtitle settings, volume, and tinnitus effects. This is pretty much all personal preference, or it's dependent if it's applicable to you. Graphics quality settings. This is where you find all of your custom color settings if you want to mess with that. This is a major menu. Accessibility, camera effects. Come in here and turn off basically everything except reduce sprint camera bobbing. You're going to want to have that on. The reason is a lot of the stuff is set to like either max setting or half by default, and it just makes your game like you're playing in a bounce house. Your screen's bouncing everywhere. It's blurry. You can't see anything. So yeah, come in here, turn all of this down, or just basically copy what I have here, and your game will already be looking a little better. This is where you find your hold and toggle controls for everything. Just a little suggestion: skip revive and request revive. I recommend turning these to toggle. I feel as though it's just a little better. Again, quality of life. You don't have to sit there holding the button down. This is where you find your controller vibration, all that sort of stuff. Text chat as speech for chat. Tutorials, you can even reset the tutorials, and your gameplay hints individually. So if you don't like one thing, you can come in here and turn it off. Moving on to gameplay, where you find all your vertical inversion settings. Vertical look, another hold toggle menu. It's the same one found in accessibility, and this is where you can turn off the capture area outline that surrounds the flags in game. You might have noticed that's a thing. If you don't like it, you can disable it. Coming in here, infantry. This is your controller sensitivity, the very first one. Infantry aim sensitivity. This is your mouse sensitivity. Some people were confusing it and changing the controller one and wondering why their mouse sensitivity wasn't changing. That would be because this is for a controller. Now, if you're a more advanced player and you understand centimeter/inches per 360 distance combined with DPI, this does just instantaneously give you your sensitivity measured in cm or inches. So that is super useful. For instance, I play on 1600 DPI and I play on 4.5 infantry aim sensitivity. So that means my sensitivity is a 56.4 cm 360. That's how that works. It also gives you options for 800 DPI and 3200 DPI. Anything other than that, you're going to have to use a website to know the exact 360 distance. If you want auto sprint, this is where it is. It's under double tap forward to sprint. It is kind of a hidden setting, which is annoying, but now you know where it is. And then a lot of this is just really personal preference, you know, crouch toggle sprint, vault over sprint, door barge. If you don't want doors to basically get slammed in when you run into them, this is where you turn that off. That is a setting that is, well, I think it first came in Warzone, no? Like being able to barge through doors. Parachute auto deploy, roll camera and landing rolls. That's a brand new setting. I just leave it on. I mean, unless you don't like the roll effect on your screen, you can turn it off. And then for peak type is, I think, contextual lean. I think mount type and peak type, you can mount on the side and above things, and you can peak on the side and above things, if that makes sense. So on corners, or on, like, for instance, the deployable cover you put up, this is where you decide what is possible there. This is some interaction reload functions. You can prioritize interact, you can prioritize reload. all that sort of stuff. Again, personal preference, just depends how you play. Vehicles, this is where a ton of your vehicle settings are, and vehicle boost, you can set that to toggle or hold, which is cool. I'm actually going to set mine to hold. I'm not sure why I had it on toggle. This is where you find your controller aim assist and all that stuff. You can select a ton of different aim input curves. Old 2042, BF5, BF1. So for your controller players, aim assist menu is in gameplay all the way down at the bottom. A ton of menus there. This is the campaign menu, so obviously this pertains to the campaign. You can change the difficulty, you can change if there's a HUD, auto hide HUD, all that sort of stuff. If you want to play the campaign, you know, just come in here, scroll through this. It's not very complicated. This is where you find all of your controller mapping and settings, and if you hit F, the button's pretty hard to actually see down here. Some people miss it, but you can hit F and then edit all of your controller settings. I'm not going to go through controller settings because I'm a mouse and keyboard player, so I apologize, I know. Now into mouse and keyboard. This is where a lot of the settings menus kind of get repetitive or redundant. This is the same mouse sensitivity found in gameplay, but there are control settings here now. So this is where you find your uniform soldier aiming. So a lot of people ask about the coefficients. If you're using uniform soldier aiming, the coefficients you want to test are 0, 133, and 178. I wouldn't worry about what they necessarily do individually. Just try them all out, those three, and then play whatever feels best to you. I'm not going to overcomplicate it by trying to explain, you know, oh, this is for a certain monitor aspect ratio. Now, 0, 133, or 178, try those three and call it a day, okay? Just to keep it simple. Field of view, personal preference, again, movement, a lot of the same options we already went over. You can add an individual keybind for slide here. Same with sprint. This is where auto sprint is found again under the setting. Double tap forward to sprint. You can change your crouch slide behavior here. You can make it only the crouch, toggle only, crouch hold only, all that sort of stuff. And this is where you find your individual zoom sensitivity. So as you can see, it goes from 1x and then pretty much everything in between, which is super, super welcome. And a lot of this stuff is just redundant all the way down there. Infantry passenger keybinds. This is where you find all of your keybinds. So everything from big map, vehicle seat 5, to really important things like jumping, right? So again, keybinds, not going to spend too much time. Super personal preference. Moving on to vehicles. Again, vehicle control settings, driver keybinds, transport keybinds, just a ton of stuff for keybinds in here. And then all the way down here in other, strangely enough, one of the most important settings you absolutely have to turn on is mouse raw input. So make sure that is turned on in mouse and keyboard here. And then we'll just go into UI keybinds here. This is where you find all of your scoreboard and push to talk key, squad, party chat, all chat, that sort of stuff. Okay. Graphics settings. So the first thing you're going to want to do is just come in here and set both of these to custom, because you're going to want to customize the settings for your individual computer based on how powerful or how weak your computer is, or how much your computer is struggling to run the game. First thing we're going to do is graphics quality settings. Now I know you're going to say, oh, he has a 4090 but it sets everything to low. Yes, because I'm that type of gamer that wants very high frame rates and good visibility. So, again, this is kind of just dependent on what kind of PC you have and what you want out of your game. If you're like me and you want very high frame rates and you don't really care what the game looks like, come in here and set everything to low, man. I mean, that's kind of just the prerogative, you know? If you want your game to look a little bit better, definitely have mesh cranked up. Have textures cranked up to maybe about medium or high. There is, I believe, an overkill setting for textures. Again, depends on your PC, but mesh is pretty important. Probably turn that to about higher ultra. And let's see here. High fidelity objects amounts. Somebody said to me this can actually have an impact on infantry footsteps. I tried playing with it on ultra and I didn't notice a difference. But if you're paranoid about footsteps, try setting the settings to ultra and give me your feedback in the comment section down below. Other than that, I'm still testing one or two things here, but basically, if you want the highest FPS, you're going to want to set all this shit to low. That's just how it is. World brightness, UI brightness, and sharpness. I've been playing on default with sharpness. I've seen people recommend as high as 90. I've seen people recommend 0. I have had no issues playing on 50 sharpness personally. This is another setting you're just going to have to figure out for yourself. There isn't necessarily like a hard line recommendation for it. And then going into advanced here, this is where you find fixed resolution scale, so you can mess with your res scale, set it to like 0.75 or whatever. If you're really, really struggling to get FPS, this is also a very important menu because this is where you find frame generation and DLSS. If you need that, you can set it to like ultra performance or anything like that. I don't play with DLSS, but upscaling technique is where you find DLSS, FSR, and XESS. Dynamic resolution scale, again, NVIDIA Reflex low latency. This is kind of dependent on how GPU bound you are. Preethi told me just to set this to enabled because of my system. For a lot of you, enabled plus boost is probably the way to go. But for now, just set it to enabled. Preethi said he actually set this to off and he tested the in-game latency and there isn't much of a difference at all. So maybe just wait to see, but for now, you can just leave that unenabled. Anti-aliasing, I play with off. Definitely, I would recommend not using TAA. If you're going to use anti-aliasing, try DLAA. Some of my viewers during my streams have told me they're using DLAA, and they feel like the visibility is slightly better. So if you're struggling with visibility, give DLAA a try. Otherwise, I would recommend turning it off. And then frame generation, I wouldn't recommend frame generation, if I'm being honest with you. Future frame rendering, again, has to be tested, but it's probably a big no. DLSS is going to do most of that heavy lifting. And then performance overlay, you can have everything, everything on. You can have it super advanced. I just run simple. You can see it in the upper right-hand corner of your screen here. It shows you CPU, the server tick rate simulation. So the 30 is the server hertz and all that. And then GPU. Your FPS that you're truly getting is the CPU number. So the number at the very top of the screen. It is not the GPU number. Okay, where were we at here? We just did advanced camera settings. Okay, field of view. Field of view is, again, I'm going to be saying personal preference a lot, but it really is. Field of view is personal preference, both vehicle third-person field of view and normal. Weapon field of view, though. So you can see on the right side, adjust weapon size when not zoomed. Selecting narrow will make the weapon appear bigger on screen, while wide will make it appear smaller. I would recommend wide for most people. We already changed these settings in a previous menu in accessibility, I believe, but just come in here and make sure they are basically turned all the way down. Motion blur, camera shake, all that. And then one of the most important settings to turn off, definitely turn off vignette and film grain. These two things are not good. Onto display settings now. This is where you decide, borderless, windowed. I play on Windows 11, so there really isn't much of a difference between full screen and borderless. You can set your, you can lock your aspect ratio. You can select your monitor hertz. This is where vertical sync is if you're doing anything with VSync plus G-Sync and all that stuff. If you're doing that, you know what I'm talking about. If you don't know what I'm talking about, just ignore it. Turn VSync off. Interface and HUD. If you want the HUD completely off, this is where you turn it off. Just click this and everything disappears. Infantry and vehicle HUD motion, I would recommend turning this off just to avoid any additional motion on screen that might be distracting. If you love your immersion, though, and you want the game to feel sort of a bit more weighty and a bit more quote-unquote realistic, you can come in here and turn this on. Definitely keep these on. Vehicle overlays, soldier overlays, show outlines on friendly targeted soldiers, and this right here is perhaps one of the most important visibility settings. SoVis filter, the soldier visibility filter. Basically, SoVis toggles between realistic soldier lighting that does tend to blend into the environment and contoured lighting. Do not turn this off. I am begging you. Leave this on. This is so important. Now, moving on to advanced HUD settings. This is where you find HUD padding. What does HUD padding do? Pay attention to this portion of the screen. I'm kind of weird and I play with it maxed out, but basically you can see it takes all of the UI elements and sort of squishes it towards the center. The argument for playing like I do, which is maxed out HUD padding, is the information is closer to my eye. So say my eye is looking screen center and I want to look at the minimap. My eye technically has to look like a shorter distance. I know it's some super nerd shit, but maybe some people will get some value from that. Maybe some people didn't think about that aspect of HUD padding, but there you go. Kill feed, come in here and actually set this to show kills made by all. I think by default it is set to squad and nearby. That is bad. You can gather a lot of information from showing all kills. You can actually discern player position, believe it or not, by turning this to all. Kill feed icons and then ping notifications. I would not recommend having ping notifications in the kill feed. Make sure to turn that off. Minimap. Now, I think in the beta they did not allow us to increase minimap size, but in this release version, they allow us to select between 3 different sizes. So, if you remember in previous games, it used to be a percentage slider. Like you could go all the way up to like 200% or something. But nope, not in this game. They just have small, medium, and large. Highly, highly recommend using the large minimap. You want as much information given to you as possible. And there's also a setting I have not messed with here. Interior zoom. What this does is, basically, if you go into a building interior, your minimap will zoom in like on your location. I just play default, like that's how I've always played Battlefield, so I really don't think I would like this setting. But if you're interested in that, this is where you find that setting at. This is where you find your big map opacity, world log, simplified squad list. And if you're a compass enjoyer, this is where you find the compass. I think it might be turned on by default. I don't use the compass, so I turn that shit off. Let's see, vehicle HUD. This is where you find all of your tank and jet HUD colors. So I'm gonna do it right now. I want my tank HUD to be a nice ice blue for aura purposes. Right about there. Right about there. A nice ice blue. Nice. Okay. And I believe these are redundant settings from before. Show HUD prompts, vehicle control hints, action prompts. All that sort of stuff. Moving right along. Okay. Icons and indicators. I'm going to timestamp this separately. This is possibly the most important visibility improving section in this entire video. And it can be a little confusing, so I'm going to try to explain it as best I can. First, you're going to go into HUD icons. Do not touch this. Aim-based icon opacity. Do not touch this. I have yet to figure out how to set this properly. This is some absolute wizard shit. If you set it wrong, it will just pretty much destroy your whole experience in terms of your HUD. Don't touch this. Now, moving on. Have you ever noticed there's a lot of screen clutter on your screen? Like, there's objective icons and teammates and revive symbols and neutral icons. And when you aim down sights, you don't necessarily need all that information. This section is how you get rid of all that unnecessary information when all you need to see is your sight relative to where the enemy is. So you're going to want to come in here, and the thought process is, we probably all know where the objectives are anyway, so make them smaller. The default's 100, I set mine to 80. Objective icon opacity. Once again, I know where the objectives are. They don't need to be super, super visible. I can turn that all the way down to about 45 or whatever you would like. Now, when I aim down sights, I don't want to see the objective at all. It's not relevant when I'm in a gunfight. So come in here and turn it all the way off, and then objective icons opacity, when it's occluded, just copy whatever you set for objective icons opacity up here. Friendly icons. This is where you want to be a little careful because your friendlies are very important. You still definitely want to see them so you don't accidentally shoot them and think they're enemies. I personally set it to make their icons a little smaller, a little tiny bit less visible by default, even less visible while aimed down sights, but still discernible from enemies. And then I made the Revive icon scale smaller, less visible, and when I aim down sights, I just completely get rid of it because, again, I don't need to see when my teammates are up for a revive when I'm shooting at people, so just get rid of it on my screen. You can just copy all this and then maybe adjust some things to your liking. And this section for friendly icons, take every setting you put here and copy it directly to squad icons, okay? So make sure these two things are 1-to-1 or else it'll look a little off. Enemy icons, leave this default, or optionally you can come in here and even make the enemy icon even larger, up to 150. So that red spot symbol, you can make it giant if you want. I just left it default. There is an argument to be made to play with it a little larger, but again, I just left it default. You want your enemies to be super, super visible. Neutral icons, this is something like an unmanned heavy machine gun, a neutral flag, that sort of stuff. You can just make it smaller. You can change the opacity. And of course, when you're zoomed, you want that to completely disappear off of your screen. And this is where you find the ping marker. So if you hit Q and ping a location, this affects the size of the ping. And of course, the opacity when unaimed and aimed, or unzoomed and zoomed, rather. So there we go. You'll be surprised after you edit this section how much better the visibility is. And then there is another section under here. Crosshairs and indicators. This is where you find your crosshair opacity and intensity. I'm actually going to turn my crosshair intensity up. I want it to be a little more visible than it actually is. This is where you find your crosshair color and thickness. I like playing with a thick crosshair. I don't know about you guys. Like I want to see my crosshair. Infantry crosshair projection. I'll just briefly explain this setting. Enable crosshair projection to potentially lessen motion sickness that can be caused by certain camera motions. This keeps the crosshair focused on where the player is aiming. When disabled, the crosshair is static and is always aligned with the center of the screen. So basically, turn this off to make your hipfire crosshair static and always tied to screen center. I prefer it off because I just don't like my crosshair moving unnecessarily. So there's that. This is where you find all of your hit indicators and opacity as well. Hit colors. So I have mine set to, if I hit someone normally, that's white. If I kill them, it's black. So it's a nice contrast. You know, white, it goes white to black. If I headshot them, it's red. And then for armor, blue and purple. And then I have the armor broken hit indicator turned on. Again, all this stuff is personal preference. And it probably depends on, you know, if you're colorblind and all that sort of stuff. Hit indicator numbers. This is the damage number that appears. I actually quite like the default setup here. I have not changed this at all. If you find the numbers are too small or just too visible, you can come in here and change the opacity of all this stuff. And then damage indicator, infantry damage, vehicle damage. I believe this is the color of incoming damage. So basically the thing that shows you the direction you're getting shot from, that is this that is the color here that you can change. Rolling all the way down now. Finally, in the graphics section, we have chat visibility and chat settings. This is the defaulting thing here. So you can set it to hide on default, and then you come in here, and it's a redundant menu. I don't know why they have that. I really don't. We've gone to audio now. This is where you find all of your, you know, music volume, commander VO, soldier and campaign VO, all that stuff. Hit indicator, basically personal preference. This is where you find your audio mix. So I've been playing on stereo default mix, which I believe is default. Some people like war tapes because basically it just takes everything and makes the mix more intense, harsher, right? Can be more immersive, that sort of thing. Just down to what you like in audio. I've actually tried night mode. I've tried high dynamic. I've tried playing on headphones with war tapes. I don't necessarily... I don't find there to be much of a difference, honestly. I certainly don't hear footsteps any better on any of these mixes. So, again, just mess around with it. See what you like. This is where you enable VoIP and everything else. We already went over this, and accessibility is tinnitus. And then I suppose this is where you turn on the music radios in game. So there you go. Make sure you can bump out to music in game. Moving on to system, this is where you install and uninstall content. Interestingly enough, now for gameplay performance and for the install of the game in general, there is an argument to be made to uninstall multiplayer high resolution textures. Freely suggested uninstalling this may improve 1% lows. So if you're on a system that is struggling with performance, not installing multiplayer high resolution textures might be the play. And let's see here. You definitely want to make sure you have show player created content turned on. Command console, so you can do things like perf overlay dot raw FPS, right? Boom. So that's how you enable and disable the thing that I have up here with the console. There are also things like you can UI draw enable. You can turn the UI off in the console, all that stuff. If you're a content creator, this is where you find streamer mode, anonymous mode, and all of your minimap settings. And if you want your account to show up on any of these tracker websites for stats, this is where you turn that on. So if you're wondering, why does my profile say it's private? Well, this is why. You turned off gameplay data sharing. If you don't care about that, simply turn this off. And, man, is that it? I think that might be it. So that's pretty much the rundown for Battlefield 6 settings. There isn't much else I can think of to go over aside from very minute config fixes, but to be honest with you, I will leave that to Freethy, who is a well-known PC Windows optimizer guy. He does great work. He's been keeping my PCs running great for the better part of 7 years. So thank you so much for watching. If you found this informative, hit the sub button. Be sure to hit that like button. Let me know what I should do next in terms of this weapon video and perhaps a tips and tricks video, because this game is a difficult game. This is probably the hardest Battlefield game released in quite a long time. It's certainly harder than Battlefield 2042. So let me know what you guys want to see. Subscribe to the channel and swing by streams, and I will see you guys in the next video.